Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Roll for Priority, the miniature wargaming podcast run by myself, Alex, and Reed. How's it going, guys?
Oh, it's
Quite
going
good.
good.
Alrighty. So today we are mixing things up a little bit. We're having a very different topic from our normal ones in that this one is a little less focused on the specifically miniature games, although we are going to be talking about its relevance in the miniature gaming circles, and more specifically something that's really been taking the Magic world by storm lately, that being crossovers in our hobby games. And basically we're going to be trying to have a discussion on, first of all, what the potential problems and obviously advantages are of crossovers in miniature games, but then also when is it done right and when is it done wrong. And obviously there's going to be a lot of really strong opinions on this, so just going to throw out there now at the beginning of this one that everything that we're saying in this video is just our opinions. You are not wrong if you love crossovers, and you're not wrong if you hate crossovers. This is all just an opinion thing, so let's try and be relatively civil on this discussion. But
I
with
make no
that said,
promises.
let's kind of talk about the kind of catalyst for this. So Magic the Gathering released a set recently that's definitely taken some things and
Very
change
small
them up for the
Spider-Man
community.
pack.
That was very small, yeah. Change things up a little bit for the community. So, Alex, you're out of the three of us, you are probably the most involved with Magic. Where are we standing on this right now? Where's the Magic community standing?
So, knowing that I speak for, literally every Magic player, and there's definitely no Magic player who disagrees with me.
Nope, we just went over this.
This,
God dang it.
um, the Spider-Man set has been really interesting to play around with and to talk about because it's it's very popular with Spider-Man fans, and it's a
Yeah,
great thing to get people who like Spider-Man to come in and buy Magic the Gathering packs, but um, it's kind of kicking off a like Magic's already been doing crossovers for like a little bit now, a couple of years at this point, but they're going to start really ramping it up, and this is kind of the start of that because the next set is going to be Avatar: The Last Airbender, and next year they've actually just revealed that it's going to be four more main crossover sets in addition to any other crossovers they do. Yeah, as like limited things, commander decks, secret layers, that sort of thing. So it's been
oh my gosh, it zooms me out every time, but we're
oh
living
yes,
with it.
yeah. As of today, actually, they announced that they're doing Marvel superheroes, The Hobbit, Star Trek, and then another Universe Beyond set that we don't even know what it is yet.
That one's coming first,
Um,
interesting. But
that one's
anyways,
coming first, yeah. Uh, don't know what to make of that, but in any case, just doing so many crossovers, and it's been interesting to watch. Obviously, people like crossovers when they are things that they are a big fan of, but it's been interesting to watch people just kind of get very cynical about just how many crossovers have been brought into this game, and talking about how it's very Fortnite-esque in terms of just everyone's here, every property you could possibly dream of gets to hang out here, and it's kind of taking away from the original game is a lot of the feelings that people have on the matter.
so at what point do we think as a community we're going to start saying we're playing Marvel Crisis Protocol, Marvel, those characters from Magic the Gathering?
I don't
Um,
know if we're ever going to say from Magic the Gathering.
For Magic the
just because
No,
you mentioned the Fortnite there.
because they're from Fortnite. That's
Yeah.
why. They're not
Oh,
from
right,
Magic.
right.
They're
They're
from
from
Fortnite.
Fortnite from Magic the Gathering. There we go. Um,
Also, they did do Fortnite cards for Magic, so Magic the Gathering, the game from Fortnite.
Gotcha. Okay, understood.
Yeah.
Glad we cleared up which came first, Fortnite or Magic the Gathering, and all other IPs stem from there. Um, okay, so yeah, obviously this has been super polarizing. The majority of the community is either super all for it, they love the crossovers, everything about them, or like you said, getting very cynical. There's too many of them. We're getting at this point, it looks like they're revealing more universes beyond sets than they are in setting sets. And
Exactly. That's yeah.
recently, I believe they started revealing them as like standard sets too. So it's affecting all ways of play, not just Commander as it did originally, unless I'm mistaken.
No, you're correct. You're correct. I don't
Yeah.
recall offhand. I believe Final Fantasy is also in standard.
Yeah, I don't
Final Fantasy
remember
is
when it started. I just know it wasn't that long ago.
No, you know what? I think it is Spider-Man is the one that's like
The
properly
first standard
properly
set.
in standard.
Okay.
Did Lord of the Rings
Um,
release in standard or modern?
Lord of the Rings was also in standard, but it was treated very differently, both by Wizards of the Coast and by the community, because honestly, it's a really good fit thematically. Like
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings just kind of feels Magic the Gathering. Like
So okay, let's
it fits
let's
in very thematic.
let's talk about that. Yeah, because I think that's actually a really interesting thing when talking about what makes a crossover something the community is going to accept versus something they're going to be upset with. Do we think some of these other crossovers might have been better received if Magic was a setting that supported that? Because on its concept, if they wanted to write these crossovers into Magic lore, Magic is a universe or a multiverse rather, where
Mhm.
the characters, the planeswalkers, the core characters of the story have the ability to walk between alternate universes, and some of those universes are vastly different from each other. You have I'm not a lore expert for Magic, so please correct me if
So
I'm
far, so
spewing
far, so
bull.
good.
But you have universes that are very, very different from each other. You have universes with varying levels of like high tech equipment and gear. I mean, in some of the recent sets, they're going to space. Whereas then
Mhm.
you have other ones where like you have medieval soldiers, you have very like this huge range of universes. So I think yeah, something like Lord of the Rings, it's not unreasonable to say, hey, Lord of the Rings as a setting could just be one of the planes in the Magic universe, and you can just go there if you're a planeswalker. Um, but it becomes interesting when we see things that we don't have something similar to. We don't have anything kind of like the real world, as far as I'm aware, in the Magic the Gathering universe. There is no plane that is just, pretty much the real world. So then you start
Mhm.
putting in superheroes, which is just the real world with superheroes. And now it's like,
Yeah,
this is maybe too many degrees of separation.
yeah. There's a very fundamental difference between showing off a Balrog and showing off a card that is a New York City subway train.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
That said, I'm totally one of those people who was in a game store the other day and saw the Spider-Man cards for the first time and was like, I'm a big Spider-Man fan. These are freaking dope. I'm not a huge Magic player and I'm not huge into Magic lore though, so I totally understand. While for me that's like this is freaking dope. For a fan of Magic lore and a longtime Magic player, I could totally see that being just like, this feels jarring. This isn't the game that I'm playing.
Yeah, and I will say that your opinion there is one that I have seen quite a bit, is the idea of like the crossover doesn't feel great. It's not really my thing. And then they release a crossover that you're a big fan of, and you go, well, this one's fine.
Yeah, this one's all right.
Yeah.
This one's
Um,
all right because they did something that I like. And that's, different strokes for different folks is kind of a big part of buying things in the economy. Buy things that you like and ignore things you don't.
yeah, I
But
mean, yeah, it turns out that's how most commerce works.
yeah,
Um,
but it is still the idea of like that there was the very initial, going way back, pushback on the Walking Dead cards, because like when those came out, people were like, okay, I don't like the Walking Dead. Maybe maybe it's a child, like a 13-year-old playing Magic the Gathering, and here comes cards that are just very M-rated, very real, like uh real actors whose characters maybe don't do the chillest things in the
yeah,
story. And that is because this is a collaborative experience. You and your opponents in Magic, and also in miniatures games, bring these things to the table. you can kind of be like, well, I don't want to engage with this thing because I don't like it. And then you show up and you're like, well, now I'm engaged with this thing even though I don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's like even for myself, just talking about the two crossovers we just talked about, the Lord of the Rings and the Walking Dead. Lord of the Rings is a setting that, you know, I'm familiar with Lord of the Rings. Obviously, I've seen the movies and I enjoy the story and the characters. So seeing Lord of the Rings coming into a game, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm not gonna go out there and say I'm the biggest Lord of the Rings fan in the world. That I'm gonna give to Reed, but I definitely do enjoy the characters in the setting. So when I see that, I'm like, that's cool. You know, Smog a thing. Smog could be cool. I like that. Then Walking Dead comes along, and I'm very much like you say. I'm one of those characters who's like, or one of those people who's like, I just don't care about this. I am, and because I'm not a big fan of magic lore, I think it's interesting, but I've never really gotten into it. Um, I'm not bothered by it, but I just don't care. At that point, it's just indifference.
Yeah.
Which is a weird place for something to be, because now with all these sets, I mean, for any given one of these, the superheroes, Hobbit, and Star Trek, that is also something it's doing to its entire player base. Is at at best, for someone who isn't a superhero fan or isn't a Star Trek fan or isn't a Hobbit fan, at best, those players are, I am indifferent. I don't care about the set. I'm not going to buy things for the set. Although making it standard kind of forces them to if they're standard players, which is a whole other thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whereas when it was commander only, you could kind of just ignore it most of the time. Most of them, as far as I'm aware, haven't been too crazy in terms of power level that you're like, oh, that needs to be in every deck that you're running. Oh, am I wrong?
So
there
the
were
Lord
a
of the
couple.
Rings, there's a card called the One Ring, and
Oh,
that's
yes.
pretty
There's
prevalent in other
definitely,
formats.
yeah, there have been some here and there things circling really far back for modern players or legacy players. I can't remember offhand, but one of the Walking Dead cards became an absolute staple in humans decks. Uh,
Interesting.
uh,
Oh.
gosh, Glenn, Daryl, one of those people.
I
I
don't
mean,
know Walking
Daryl
Dead, so
Daryl is about killing the zombies, I believe.
It was
Yeah,
one of the people. I don't watch The Walking Dead. I'm sorry, but like that
I've
was a
seen
very
some.
meta card. Like you said, the One Ring, Mirkwood Bats is another fun one.
Yep.
Uh,
At least with Mirkwood Bats, you can kind of just. It's like Jason was mentioning, where you can kind of see it in the setting, like it kind of fits in. It's just like some
yeah.
bats.
Well, even the One Ring,
Yeah.
I'm like that could totally be a Magic card.
Oh,
If Lord
yeah.
of the Rings didn't exist and they printed that in Magic, I'd be like, yeah, you know what, that works.
Oh, for sure.
Um,
Yeah.
like from that, we're also looking at like Vivi from the Final Fantasy set is doing
Yeah.
some very rude things both in and out of Commander. Um, there's been quite a few like reprints of stuff that have been left reprints that were left alone for a long time and are now like, oh, the first reprint it's gotten in a while is in a crossover set, so the cheapest way to get this card is with crossover art. uh
yeah, that's interesting
mhm.
when it's like that. Yeah, because now you're kind of forced to engage with it, right? Like especially with them
Yeah.
bringing it to standard. When it was kind of a um commander only thing, I acknowledge that commander is supposed to be the player's game. That Magic over time has kind of said, no, actually we are going to take ownership of this game mode and do what we want with it, to mixed reviews. But I think it is to a certain point reasonable for a company to be like, this game mode is going to be the one where we're going to do stuff like this, and if you don't like it, here are all these other game modes that you could play instead. um but again, Commander was originally a community game mode. It was made by the community, not by Wizards. They just kind of adopted it. Um,
Mhm.
and B, they've now put it into standard, so they've even taken away that. Like, if you really don't like the crossovers before, you could have just played standard. But now that you don't even have that option, you're kind of forced to
Yeah.
engage.
Yeah, I feel like standards where they've taken it too far. I think like the secret layers and everything is like a fine amount of separation where you can opt in.
I mean, I
Um,
bought Sonic cards. I'm like
yeah,
I
exactly.
have Sonic and Shadow in Magic. I'm totally gonna build a commander deck around Shadow. Like that's a thing. So
Yeah, like that's all cool. Like I kind of wish some of them weren't unique cards. Like maybe like I like when they have like it counts as I can't think of one off the top of my head, but like
see, yeah,
let's say
I
they did Dragon or something and was like this is
Tiamat
Smog in Lord of the
or
Rings.
yeah,
Or yeah, something
D
like
and D's
that.
Tiamat. Obviously, they've also done a D&D set, so that might not be the greatest example. Although maybe it is. Maybe it could have been Tiamat could have just been Dragon reprinted. Um,
Yeah, something like that. Where it's like that way you're not don't have to buy into the secret layers for mechanically unique cards.
yeah,
Um, but
no, like I think that would have been really the ideal way to go, but that was originally how it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. Most of the original crossover things were just through secret layers. I could be wrong about that, but
No, you're correct. You're correct. They definitely started with secret layers. They started with The Walking Dead, which is a wild uh initial crossover to have. There
yeah,
was very briefly in Ikoria, the first no, there's still only one Ikoria set. In Ikoria, they had cards that were crossovers with they were alternate arts for uh cards from the set that were Godzilla characters. I believe that may have been their first like main set crossover thing, but it was only alternate arts.
yeah. Like I think that is something where you can really easily be like, okay, these are here for the people who like this thing, but all of these things are also available in other places in the game, and so you don't have like again that choice to engage with the crossover I think is a big deal. Um,
Mhm.
and you still can't stop it from your opponent playing it, which I acknowledge is something that people also are not huge on being, going up to the store, to their game store for their local Friday night or whatever, and being like, well, now I'm playing against Spider-Man. I acknowledge why that could be a little jarring. Um,
Mhm.
but I do think it's kind of interesting when as a miniature community to kind of rail this over. Um, for the most part, you guys are welcome to have a different opinion to me here. But if I go up to like a an MCP tournament and my opponent throws down their models and their models are proxies that they've obviously they're like, are you okay with me using proxies and all that fun stuff? And 99% of the time my answer is going to be yes, and I think you guys would be the same. And if they show me their proxies and they're like, I did the Justice League for my team. My Gladiator is Superman. My whatever is whatever. My Captain America is Wonder Woman. I've got Quicksilver for the Flash. I've got Green Arrow for Hawkeye. Like all they all make sense. And it's like
Mhm.
that's my Avengers team, and I'm gonna look at that and I'm gonna be like, that is sick. I am so here for it. Um, but I again acknowledge that that's not necessarily everyone's thing, and coming from that, that's a superhero setting to another superhero setting. If they were to instead plop down on the board, I don't know, something from Star Wars or something from some other like sci-fi or maybe like medieval setting, it would definitely feel a little jarring. I'd still probably be here for it because it happens so rarely and it's super cool. But I could understand where that becomes jarring and a little perhaps disruptive to your normal way of play.
I think personally, when it comes to that specific kind of crossover, where it's someone proxying a model in a miniatures game, I've always been fine with it because that is something that the other person took like upon themselves to do. Like they went out, they got those models, they painted those models, and they tried at least to make it thematic and or something to match a game piece for the game we're playing. And I've always been okay with it because that is something that this person evidently really cares about and they thought it was a fun hobby project. And at that point I want to see it.
Yeah,
I think there's a fundamental difference though between the person I'm sitting down with at the table uh doing a proxy thing versus someone versus a game itself bringing in a crossover, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. So, one of the examples I wanted to talk about today, because I think it's probably the closest parallel we have to a Magic the Gathering um, for miniature games, is actually Heroescape.
Hmm.
So, Heroescape, for those who are unfamiliar with the kind of lore of the setting, um, basically all of the characters in Heroescape are summoned from other planes, other realms, by these generals, and they summon people who match their values, um, to fight for them. And Heroescape has so many different things. You have, I mean, Alex, as you enjoy, you have like the bug hive. You've got
Hmm.
the little woodland creatures with like all these fancy contraptions. But then you also have like World War soldiers. Like you've got Sergeant Drake and the Airborne Elite, and these guys are literally just like human military soldiers stripped from basically the real world. You've got, samurai, you've got knights, you've got robots. Like you have all these different things. And Heroescape has done two crossovers before. Um, they have done the first one they did, I think, was the Marvel crossover, and that was just one set. They just had a bunch of superheroes versus a bunch of supervillains. There was like 10 models in the box, and that crossover was met with very mixed reviews. But I think the major issue with it wasn't that it was a crossover, but that it was just not very well balanced. A lot of the characters were very, very strong. Um, but it works because you have settings that those characters totally could have been in the Heroescape universe. You've got like a cyberpunk city kind of setting where they pull in a character who's basically Blade, and like you have a ton of these characters that are kind of like, yeah, you know what, Spider-Man could be in the same universe as these characters. That's fine. And then the second one they did was Dungeons and Dragons, which again, very, very easy to be like, well, my game with knights and orcs and goblins and monsters has more knights and orcs and goblins and monsters and dragons. Cool. um,
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did they not also do a very on-topic Magic the Gathering crossover?
Arena of the Planeswalkers is what you're thinking of. And Arena of the Planeswalkers is legally a different game. Um, it is mechanically similar, but it is for various reasons not compatible. So yesn't is the answer that I'm going to give to that. Um,
Okay, you are then also forgetting the very most important crossover for Heroescape, which is the G.I. Joe one.
well, that's what I was about to get to. Is that now
Hmm.
that it's in the hands of Renegade Studios, and they own the rights to make games for a handful of IPs, they have announced that they're doing a GI Joe crossover, and once again, that just kind of works. Like we have we have characters that would fit right in with that setting. I think. Again, I don't know much about the GI Joe setting, so I'm not like personally super excited about that. But what I am excited about is that that means they are willing to mix in some of their other IPs. And for me, I'm a sucker for crossovers, and I love Heroescape lore, but I think it works with the Heroescape lore, so I'm just excited. I'm like, hey, Heroescape has the right to Transformers. I would love to see them make that happen.
Yeah, I
um,
will say Heroescape with its tight and very consistent world building and game design. If you put down a GI Joe team that consists of a soldier guy, a ninja, a girl with a crossbow, and a guy with a laser Gatling gun, I'm like 90% sure those are already models in
yeah, like
Heroescape.
I'm pretty sure you just described like half of the second master set good guy team. Like
Yeah,
switch out
like those
Sonlin,
are.
switch out the wizard with the pet dragon for a lady with a crossbow, and you've basically made that exact box. And turns out one of these things is more out there than the others. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, no, like Heroescape, I think, is the perfect example of a game that can totally get away with doing tons of crossovers from varying different types of universes and not having it feel too weird. Um, And even then, I think they have to be careful. Obviously, if everything became a crossover, people would get upset about it. If they were to announce a roadmap like what Magic did, and be like, our next 7 sets, over half of them are crossovers, I think people would be a little upset about that because people do really like the original content in Heroescape. But for the most part, I think the crossovers are pretty well received because it's such a the setting is designed almost begging for crossovers,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I think it's such an interesting parallel to Magic, where like Magic has a very similar design for its setting in the sense of like it's already acknowledging this multiverse with vastly different universes that have vastly different characteristics and types of people. But again, it's one of them is a lot better received than the other, um, for numerous reasons, as we've kind of already talked about. So
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I that's exactly where I was going with that though, is the GI Joe that's coming for Heroescape is sign of more to come. And interestingly, like the reception on that has been, as far as I'm aware, pretty much the opposite.
So it's been positive for the GI Joe one,
I
or
believe it's been mostly positive. There's been a
okay.
little bit of like, I think there's been a little bit of concern over how far they're going to go with it, but I don't
Mhm.
think people are specifically upset about GI Joe. I think they're just worried about becoming Magic.
Sure,
So
um,
sure.
part of my
And
question is, was Magic's initial crossovers like with The Walking Dead and stuff, was that negatively received, or has it become negative as we've gotten more and more crossovers?
I understand, and this is just my finger on the pulse, that it started off negative and has just kind of gotten either more cynical or more beaten down since then. There's been a lot of like, we still don't
Hmm.
like it, but it's still happening and nothing we can do can stop it.
I
I'm
guess
absolutely blanking on the exact number right now, but the amount of money, the profit that was made off of the Final Fantasy set was so astronomical that there's no way that they're not going to continue doing
Oh,
yeah.
for sure.
crossovers.
Because let's be real, that is the good thing about doing crossovers, even to the extent that Magic is doing them, is that you are bringing a lot of people into these games. Um,
Mhm.
like when you tell me, hey, we're doing like I have never bought, or until recently I had never bought a Secret Lair before, but they announced they were doing a Sonic one, and I was like, oh, if it has Shadow, I kind of need to own that card. Bought my first Secret Lair, wouldn't have done that otherwise, and very little in terms of Magic spending has been a part of my budget for a long time. So
Mhm.
I'm definitely one of those players where I play the game very casually, and because they crossed over with an IP that I really like and they did a character that I really like, I spent money on it. And you know, I intend to build that deck and play it, so I will also play the game slightly more because of it. And that is good for the game. Getting more people to spend money and more people to play the game is at the end of the day very good for the health of the game, but it is hurting the existing player base, and it's a really
So I
interesting balance.
so I part of wonder if like the difference in the kickback from both communities is since Magic's like an older, like it's a bit more established than Heroescape. It's like 30 years old, and
Yeah.
before they started doing crossovers. And Heroescape, I don't know how long into the lifespan they started crossovering with like
Um
Marvel and stuff like that.
that's a good question. I think they it was after the second master set, I'm pretty sure. So it was at least going for a couple years before they decided to do one, but it wasn't anything like obviously the game's lifetime is a lot shorter. Um
Yeah, so I wonder if it's just like how established the community's got with like each lore, like in both
yeah.
games,
Well, no, and
that
like
it
that's
affected
a
that.
great point. Um just yeah, like Magic was going how many years before their first crossover set, and
Quite a
um
few.
so obviously a lot of those players were probably very comfortable in that setting and the way that they played the game, because I
Mhm.
do see it from the other side too of like I got into Marvel Crisis Protocol because it's a Marvel game. I got into Halo Flashpoint because it's a Halo game.
Mhm.
I got into most of the Star Wars miniature games because they're Star Wars games. I got into those games because I like the setting. I really, really enjoy the setting and the characters. And so I was like, I get the chance to play a cool game that has those characters. I get to own cool plastic figures with those characters. I mean, after almost every Flashpoint battle report I've done, I look back at the table afterwards and I'm like, I am so glad I get to experience this as a Halo fan. I get to experience the joy of putting Master Chief on the table and going up against Atriox or vice versa, because that's actually the way I've done that matchup. But my point is that is why I play that game. I think the game's rules are great. I think it's a really fun game, but if I was playing that game for just its rules, I would be playing Dead Zone. I am playing Halo Flashpoint because I love Halo. So if you turned around and told me after I've been playing Halo Flashpoint and I've invested thousands of dollars into it over even just like a couple years, if you turned around and told me this isn't actually a Halo game anymore, this is going to still have Halo in it, but we're also throwing in insert random IP that I do not care for in the slightest, I am losing so much of that flavor on the table because now half of my games I'm playing against something that isn't Halo. And that's part of the draw for me. So, yeah, it's like, what if Warhammer tomorrow turned around and announced that they were doing, I don't know, what's a setting that would really just kind of be a completely opposite direction to Warhammer?
SpongeBob, since Magic is
sure.
You know what? Perfect. Warhammer goes ahead.
SpongeBob's in Warhammer now.
James Workshop decides that SpongeBob is getting a faction in Warhammer. And all of a sudden, I mean, we all know how many people are into Warhammer because they love the lore and the setting. Those people are not going to be happy playing their game that they play mostly for narrative against SpongeBob.
I don't think they'd be even happy even if you put Halo in it, just because like I mentioned,
even if
they're
it was
very
sci-fi.
established with their lore too.
Yeah,
like
even
Magic,
if it was
right?
sci-fi, you could put Star Wars, you could put Halo, you could put any setting, and they're not going to be happy about it. I intentionally wanted to pick one that was very out there, but no, like you're not going to be happy about it because again, even for me, I'm playing my Halo game, and you turn around and you put Star Wars in it. On one hand, I'm like, I like Star Wars, so that is still kind of cool, but I wish I knew that going into the game because I also really like just having a Halo game.
Yeah.
And that's where I think yeah, continue.
I think especially with miniatures games, one of the interesting parts of it is we do kind of have, and it's getting more and more pronounced, especially now that we're getting things like the Gundam game coming out, the StarCraft game.
Excited about both of those.
A little of me as well, but it's a lot of the, especially in the miniatures game space, rather than looking at a single system where it's like, all right, this is the one tabletop system and we're going to cross over everything into it. You kind of have a lot of smaller things running in parallel to each other that are these own licensed games. We can have a Marvel game and a DC game that are separate and have different things. You can have a Star Wars and a Star Trek game that are separate and running their own things.
And here's what I love about most of the miniature games that have done crossovers is that when you look at something like HeroScape or another obviously big example for this being HeroClix, when you look at either of these games going into the game, you are not expecting to have a game where both of your forces, yours and your opponents, are going to be consistent. You're not going to walk into that being like, oh, I'm playing the World War veteran people, so I'm expecting that my opponent is going to play something similar. No, you're walking into that game expecting that you are playing a wizard with a pet dragon beside a robot, beside a soldier, beside an angel. That is what you're playing, and it makes no sense whatsoever, and that's the fun of it, is that it's wacky. And then you look at HeroClix and it's the same deal. Like HeroClix is at its core a Marvel and DC crossover game. They've added other universes in there, but every time you play a game, you are not expecting to be playing Marvel against Marvel or DC against DC. You're expecting some amalgamation of things. So you can add as many other IPs into those as you want. because you're going to be getting the game that you're expecting still.
Yeah.
At least
I
that's
think
my take.
I think that going into it with the expectation of it kind of being a crossover is a big part of it. Changing something from a not crossover property to a big crossover property is a big thing. But if you went out to HeroClix today, you would expect it to be Marvel and DC, right?
Exactly. Like I think from the beginning that was true with HeroClix, and even though with HeroScape it didn't start with crossover products, it was never a consistent theme. It was always we have a jumble of themes and settings that are clashing. I mean, that's literally the point of the lore. Is it's the battle for all time. It's got stuff from the future. It's got stuff from the past. It's got things from weird universes. It's got everything.
Mm.
So even there, like, yes, you have established lore, but all of that established lore, or at least 90% of it, takes place on the plane where these characters have been summoned to. We really know very little about their homeworlds. So you're not you're not really affecting the settings that are supposed to be homogenous. You're affecting the ones that are mixed. Or the setting that is mixed and is supposed to be wacky and have all these things that don't make sense to be here.
Mhm.
So, no, I think it's a really interesting look at, like, I mean, let's look at another card game that has this sort of setup that's more like HeroClix or more like HeroScape, and that's Universus.
Mhm.
So, Alex, I don't know how much you know about Universus.
Almost nothing, to be honest with
Almost
you.
nothing. Okay, so
I'm actually in the same boat.
I only learned about Universus recently, because one of my friends is a huge Critical Role fan, and Universus decided to do a set on Critical Role. So they've included a bunch of the characters. I'm trying to paste it into here now, but it's taken its time for some reason. They've included a bunch of the characters from that setting. It's a D&D campaign, whatever.
Mhm.
There it is. And yeah, the basic premise of Universus is it is a crossover card game.
Mhm.
It's a card game, and every single set is some form of crossover. So they've got I don't know if this is like what's upcoming or not, but they've got stuff from a ton of different anime. And they've got solo leveling here. They've got Attack on Titan. They've got a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles set here. I think this is stuff that's coming eventually. And then they, like I said, they've got the Critical Role. Like, this game at its core is a crossover game, so obviously
Mhm.
people aren't going to be complaining as they do more and more of that. Um, so I think it's really interesting where we have a game that's literally meant to do that compared to Magic, which is like becoming a game that is more crossover than it is original content.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. So I guess my question then is like, all right, you're looking at Magic. It started off not a crossover. It's getting crossovers. It's making a ton of money. They're gonna keep doing it. But people are still not happy about a lot of these things. So what makes it a good crossover? What can we do to, or what can we hope to see to make these crossovers feel not so bad every time they get announced?
yeah,
Well,
I mean, oh,
I
go
think
ahead.
one of the main things. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think one of the main things I kind of touched upon earlier is don't print mechanically unique cards that are
Hmm.
crossovers. So it's more like an opt-in.
Sure.
Um, so that way it's more like a reskinning of like the card. So like you just see the name and you know it's this card.
Hmm.
People still might have some issues with that, but like I think that's a bit more accepted.
So how do
Sure.
we feel if Magic had done this instead with Spider-Man? As we are aware, and I'm sure many of the people watching are aware, Magic Arena had to do the Spider-Man set as a in-universe original set. They
Yes.
remade every single card in the Spider-Man set mechanically identical,
Mhm.
with different names to not reference Spider-Man or any Spider-Man IP at all. So all of
Well,
those
that's
characters, sorry,
a very important caveat. They didn't have to rename City Pigeon.
nice.
Excellent.
So they've renamed
That's what we
almost
needed.
every card in the set, everything that was that could be associated with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And they released it as a online only set because you can't get the Spider-Man set on Magic Arena.
Yeah.
How do we think the community would have felt if that set had been released as a physical set alongside the Spider-Man set, and they said these two sets are mechanically identical? All of the Spider-Man cards have the little thing they do where they're like, oh, this is the actual name of the card, and it references the ones in the other set, and you can take your pick. You can buy from either side of the booster, and you will either have all of the ones that are in universe, or you will have the crossover ones, but you are buying the same cards.
I don't personally love that for a number of reasons. I think the logistics of actually buying and selling that would be difficult.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it
Yeah,
I think,
that's
gets very anti-game store because they're going to have to now
and
stock both of these products and be careful that they don't run out of the one people want more.
yeah, and I think that at the end of the day, if you do present that option to people, right? You put, okay, here is the Spider-Man set, and next to it we have the Spider People from Across the Multiverse set, and you put those next to each other. The Spider-Man set is just going to run out before the Spider People from Across the Multiverse set,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think
And
Spider-Man's the worst example of this because if you did this with like Lord of the Rings, it would be very easy to be like, wait a minute, this is the Lord of the Rings set, and then this is the uh, generic medieval fantasy set, and like
yeah,
you can get away with it a lot
Well,
cleaner
part of it,
there.
I think the issue too is I think they should have also stuck to secret layers as part of this.
Yeah,
I think releasing the sets into standard created a mess.
yeah,
Like they're gonna make money, but like if we're talking about
Mhm.
like their player base, I think that hurts like a lot of the loyal fans of like the actual Magic setting.
Mhm.
Um,
no,
so I don't think
I
that's
agree.
healthy.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one because like when you do it with only the secret layer, you do run into the issue one of you guys mentioned earlier of like the alt art version of this card now the universes beyond version of this card is the cheaper version because that was the most recently reprinted and it's a card that had a lot of value. I'm thinking like it's on their never reprint list, which is stupid for a whole other reason, but
Mhm.
I'm thinking if I were to see like Sliver Queen reprinted because I have a Sliver deck. You may all hate me in the comments. It's fine. I swear it's not good. But
Deservedly so.
okay, says the blue player. Anyways,
Whoa, 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 whoa! I will
Whoa.
not stand here and
Yeah,
listen to you slander the color blue.
anyways,
the best color.
This
listen, if you're
episode brought
using
to
it
you
for
by the color
flying,
blue.
if you're using it for flying, all right, we're cool. Um, anyways, or draw is cool too. Um,
Wow.
but if they were to go ahead and reprint, let's say instead of doing it as like commander decks, they had decided to do, or no, even with commander decks, instead of doing it as mechanically unique cards, they had decided to do the Warhammer set as cards that already exist, and they had decided that Tyranids were just slivers, because it kind of works, not really, but close enough.
You can
Um,
squint at it.
yeah, you can squint at it and say they look kind of similar. Mechanically, it wouldn't make any sense, but whatever. Um, and they had decided to reprint Sliver Queen in that deck. That would definitely become an interesting point for me as a Sliver player. It's like Sliver Queen is a card that is so far out of my budget, I will never own it. Um, but like having that card in the deck would be really really good. But now I'm not a Sliver deck. I'm a Sliver with a Tyranid deck, and that feels a little weird for me as a player who like again, I don't care that much about the lore, so I'm probably willing to just get over it to have a cheaper Sliver Queen. But I do care a little because like I like the thematic of that deck. I like slivers. I think they're cool. I think they're one of my favorite things in the setting. So
Mhm.
having to kind of dilute my sliver deck just because the good cards were more affordable that way, it feels a little wrong. I don't know where
Yeah, I
you
can
guys.
understand that. I'm one of those players that with my commander decks, I find it I kind of like having just a bunch of random universes in my deck because I don't care about the overall thematics of it. I just like seeing like Frodo beside the Doctor and
So,
stuff like that.
so don't get me wrong. I
Uh,
think that's super cool, and if you're going for that, I think it's amazing. I absolutely love that. I would totally do the same thing. It's just for this where this is an established deck that I have that I'm like, this deck already has a theme. This deck is actually built to be like a thematic cool deck based on characters that I think are cool. If this were to happen with like, I don't know, my dragons deck, I would totally be fine putting like the D&D dragons or dragons from other settings as long as they look like dragons still into that deck because like dragons are dragons and dragons are still cool. Um
yeah,
it's just because slivers are such a like specific unique thing, it would feel a little weird to be like instead of Sliver Queen, it's Tyrannid Queen. Did Tyrannids have queens? I don't know much about Tyrannid lore. Um,
uh,
but you guys know where I'm going with that.
I know Warhammer lore, but I don't know much about Tyranids.
Wow.
It,
Best faction
My
in
bad.
I
Warhammer, and
don't
you don't know
think
anything
I
about
can
them.
answer
That's
that
the
question in a time frame that is conducive to this episode.
What if we decided this was a 4 hour
The answer
podcast?
is well, no, but actually yes.
All right. Either
Okay, sure,
way,
we'll take that.
um, either way, it would feel mechanically weird to be like, yes, again, they look close enough if you squint at it. Maybe you can be like, that's just a sliver. I'm going to write in permanent marker on the sleeve for that card sliver instead of Tyrannid, and I'll be happy with it. But um it's definitely one of those things that I can understand why people would not love that idea, but I still think it would be better received than what they're doing
Mhm.
Yeah.
now.
I think personally a big part of these crossover sets and crossovers just kind of generally in these things really comes down to kind of the intent behind it. Um and I get to talk about my favorite Magic crossover,
All
which
right,
is
all
the
right.
Doctor Who one.
Is this when you want me to put the image on the screen? Just tell me
You can
when.
put the image on the screen. You
All
can put
right,
the
all
image on the
right. I'm
screen. It's
putting
one
the
of the
image on
best
the
cards
screen. Let's see here.
because everyone has to look at this card now.
It's gonna be
It's
like
great.
tiny compared to Percy here. Yeah, it is. All right, that's fine.
Yeah, there it is. The best. Okay, so I love the Doctor Who Commander set. I think it's actually one of the best crossovers Magic has done. And I think a really big part of it, and now that I've made people look at dinosaurs on a spaceship, I will make you look at a real card that I will actually be
Wow, this man's making me do so much extra
talking
work.
about, which I will now send to Jason, only now, as a pump fake. Yeah.
Can't believe you.
I think that the Doctor Who set is one of the best ones for a number of reasons. And I think a big part of it is a lot of the cards, for a lot of the design into this set was not made with the intent of let's make a Magic the Gathering set that is very powerful. It was not saying let's make a bunch of chase stuff. It was making a bunch of things that were really, really thematic. I believe it was the chief designer on this set was a guy named Gavin Verhey, who is just a huge Doctor Who fan. And one of the neatest things about this set is there are a lot of folks, and I've seen this myself, is this card on the screen right here, Heaven Sent, is a really weird card, right? Like between you two, Jason and Reed,
Yeah,
do you kind of get what this card's doing on first parse? Or
refresh
does
my
it
memory on what Investigate does.
Like how it works, or do you mean
yeah,
like what it's based? Okay, no, I
what
get how
it's
it works.
doing in
Yeah,
the game of Magic, yeah. but it's a
Yeah,
weird one, right?
Sure.
it is weird. Mechanically, I get it though. Yeah.
Yeah. I have seen this card and many others in this set, which is full of some really complicated cards that do some really complicated stuff. Just kind of get put into a person who's seen that episode of Doctor Who and go, oh, I know exactly what this card does. Because it is so deeply flavorful. There's a card in this set that mentions the legend rule, and you can show that card to a person who really hasn't played Magic, and they'll go, oh, no, I totally know what this card is doing, because it is made by people who are really big fans trying to make something that is very flavorful and very rooted in the source material. And I think if you're coming at these crossovers from the perspective of being a huge fan of this set, being a huge fan of this thing you're uh getting to, this IP that you're getting to bring into your product, I think that that goes a long way. I think that being able to, I don't know, just kind of bring in that being a fan to the fans is a big part of it.
Yeah, I will say that's definitely something that disappointed me with the Spider-Man set because I am a huge Spider-Man fan, obviously. Marvel Crisis Protocol, one of my favorite factions thematically is Web Warriors. Um,
Mhm.
the One of the things that was hugely disappointing for me with the Spider-Man set is that I look at most of those cards and I don't get why it's Spider-Man. I don't get why
Yeah.
it's whatever character it is because some of them, okay, I think there was like a Doc Ock that kind of like worked as like like leading the Sinister Six sort of idea, and I was like, okay, that's cool. Like some of the villain ones I actually think they did better than the hero ones overall, but a lot of them I'm like, for one, that doesn't feel like this character or this thing, but for two, I don't even know how you would do this character or this thing in Magic. So like, I guess I give it a pass, but then why did they do this in Magic? Because it doesn't feel like a setting that really translates all that well to it, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yep.
Like,
I feel like if you're designing these cards, you do need to like make them feel like it's from the universe you're selling. If you're making these mechanically unique cards,
yeah.
because like then what? Otherwise, what's the point, right?
Well, and I'll even compare it to something that I do here on this channel with the custom Marvel Crisis Protocol cards that I do for IPs that aren't part of Marvel. And I think the idea there is like I'm not gonna do a custom character for Marvel based on something that I don't think would mechanically work in MCP because at that point I should be doing that for a different game or just not doing it. Um, if I don't think the mechanics of the game work to represent that character, if there's no way I can bend those mechanics to represent that character, then maybe that character shouldn't be in that game. Um,
Mm.
and that's for me like I look at Pokemon and I look at DC and I look at a bunch of other things and I'm like I think personally that MCP can handle those types of characters really really well. I think it's got the right toolkit to do that sort of thing. So I'm super here for it and that's why I like to do those characters as custom characters. But here I think we run into that issue of like they were able to do really interesting things with Doctor Who. Like you said, you were able to say like people who know the episodes understand what the cards are doing and why they're
Mhm.
related. And I think that's really cool. And that was what I wanted out of the Spider-Man set. That was when I was looking at the cards. I was like, the art on these is really cool. These are really pretty. I wish I could look at the text without the art and tell you the character that it's supposed to be because that's
Yeah,
what I feel
and
like I can't do.
I think your custom characters are actually a great shout out, because when you show you the process that you're making them, you go, okay, this is the Pokemon ones jump to mind. You go, okay, here's what moves that this Pokemon can learn. Here's its Pokedex entry that I can rely on. Here's the role it usually plays in a Pokemon team. And you can like make that character flavorfully feel like the source material that you're drawing from. And I think that's a huge part of it, is the ability to kind of like dig in, make it really feel like the thing that it is, and justify it being that crossover.
Yeah, I to be fair, I think I have it easy because I think Marvel Crisis Protocol is a system that's like very well equipped to handle a vast degree of different types of characters. Turns out when you're dealing with superheroes, you have a lot of options. Um, but
Oh,
sorry,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, please.
Um, oh no no. Also, I'm gonna bring up a crossover I thought about while we were talking. That I think is relevant when it comes to custom characters in games.
Hmm?
Just gonna send it.
Oh, okay. I have to
You
do
know
my
more about
work.
this than I do.
Oh my
Oh,
God,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
think we should
Sorry,
at least
the
discuss it.
audience has no idea
gotta
what we're talking about here.
Yep.
gotta talk about.
Yeah, we should
Man,
discuss this.
so for anyone who's not familiar, these miniatures are for the DC Miniatures game, a game that, as far as I'm aware, none of us have actually played. I own a handful of models for, but I've never actually gotten a chance to put it on the table yet.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I have not been able to
I
to
own
give this game a
specifically
try.
these models.
so anyone who's not familiar, this is not what the Justice League usually looks like. This is the Big Bang Theory crossover where they took the one episode of Big Bang Theory where all the guys dressed up as the Justice League and they put them into the DC Miniatures game. Um, this one's really interesting. One of the things that I think is kind of cool about it is that while this is obviously a very like these characters do not exist in the DC universe sort of crossover, they also didn't just do them as this is your Superman figure. These are all characters that actually represent their character from the show. Uh, Almost all of them have the scientist keyword, and almost none of them have good combat stats. They're all meant to actually represent the characters that they are in the show, not the character that they're dressed up as, because they're literally just cosplayers, nerdy cosplayers in the game as well as what they actually are. This one's interesting. I'm actually really glad you brought this up because I don't know where to stand on this because I love this. I, as a fan of Big Bang Theory, as a fan of DC, I think this is freaking gold. This is amazing.
Yeah, I literally bought it just for the miniatures.
And I think being able to say like this, the type of crossover this is, and the type of game that the DC Miniatures game is, being able to say that these are all like legitimately these are cosplayers almost works in the DC universe. Like you could almost get away with just releasing a set of models that's like these are people cosplaying as these characters, and it like I think that would be okay in that game. I don't know how well it would sell per se unless the models were really really good, but like if you're not a fan of Big Bang Theory, you can just view this set as that and it's probably fine. I don't know. I don't know if Alex, you have any way in on that.
I just don't like the Big Bang Theory.
Oh,
That's
fair
all.
enough. Um,
No,
okay.
no, it's fine. It's fine.
But if they did this for MCP, well, okay, MCP actually I don't think supports it very well, because MCP is very hero focused. But for those who aren't aware, the DC Miniatures game, one of its biggest criticisms, I guess I'll say, is that a lot of the time you don't get to focus on the heroes as much. You're focusing on the henchmen to the point where like most of the heroes, as far as I'm aware, are considered overcosted, and so you don't even bring many heroes in most games. You're bringing a lot more like henchmen dudes. Um, so I think in a game like that, being able to be like, these dudes are cosplayers of the heroes just kind of works. Like they're still, here in the fight, just like the henchmen are, but like if you're playing, I don't know, the Gotham City Police Department, they've called in a couple science nerds during Halloween to help them deal with this thing. you can hand wave that and it just works. Big Bang Theory crossover aside.
Yeah.
So no, I think that's an
Could also
interesting
be
one.
like the scene in The Dark Knight where like the guys were all dressed up like
The
Batman with
hockey pads
shotguns.
and everything, yeah.
Yeah, where they're just
Yeah.
like, we'll put on the uniforms and
Well, and I think that's where you get the Superman and the Penny here, because Superman and Wonder Woman in this are the two that actually have like measurable combat stats. They're still not statted like Superman or Wonder Woman, but they can actually throw a punch. Um, so like they are actually capable of fighting. And that's where you get those two characters, is like, yeah, that is the scene in The Dark Knight where you have all those copycats just trying to do what they can. Um, Meanwhile, if the Batman here tries to do what they can, they're probably just gonna die. But um, no, I think that's an interesting one, because this one could have been very poorly received. And honestly, the game doesn't have a big enough community, to my understanding, to really have much of a reception. But anytime I hear anyone talk about this set, it's usually like a that's hilarious and really cool, not a oh that's ruining the game. Which is interesting, because it's definitely one that I could see that opinion being the opinion. Like, if we got something like this in Marvel Crisis Protocol, where we got like, I don't think Big Bang Theory specifically ever did as much with Marvel characters, but if we were to see some other sitcom or something like that, we'll have a bunch of characters dressed up as the Marvel superheroes, and we got a set of that in MCP, I could see it being met with very mixed reviews.
Absolutely.
I would be all for it, but that's because
See,
I'm more into games for like the gameplay than the
yeah,
setting.
yeah, I would definitely see why people would be conflicted on it. I don't know where I would land. It would have to happen, but I could understand why people would be conflicted.
So, the one thing I differ for card games and versus miniature games is the one thing I don't want to see though is I don't want them to. I don't know if I love alt sculpts of existing models, like models with rules having like alt sculpts. Like if you have a Spider-Man and he's like, I don't know, some dude dressed up as a spider as an alt sculpt, for the same model. I think that can be confusing, and I think it's not good to force that on players.
So
I mean, we do have
I was
that
gonna say,
in
it's
Marvel
funny you
Crisis
mentioned
Protocol.
Spider-Man, because that's one of the few that we have in MCP. Um, do you think that's different if we only have one Spider-Man in MCP? Because we have
I think it's
three.
I think it's
Um,
better. So it's more or less so like when they are like, here's a different model of Spider-Man in a different pose, or if they do something like, for example, the SpongeBob example, they're like, we have a Spider-Man model. We're saying this SpongeBob is using Spider-Man's rules for whatever reason. I think that people won't understand just by looking at it, go like, oh, of course, that's Spider-Man. When they see
yeah.
like
Okay,
SpongeBob,
I get
right?
what you're
Like,
saying.
yeah, like I think that's confusing. And personally, I'm fine if someone wants to proxy those models, but I don't think it's good to force that on a player base.
Yeah, no, that
Yeah.
makes sense. I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's an interesting one of like, yeah, because I am all for having alt sculpts for the same models, as long as you can make it clear that it's representing a certain, like, again, MCP has an issue with that, where if you put the alt sculpt for Spider-Man on the table, um I think that alt sculpt looks closer to the third Spider-Man that we have than the first, but it is technically supposed to be the first, and then you lead to ambiguity where it's like, well, which one are you running?
Yeah.
Spider-Man less of an
Mhm.
issue because nobody runs the first one, but uh, the concept stays the same. Of like, if you have a really cool proxy for a Wolverine, well, there are three Wolverines, and all of them have varying degrees of validity in different lists. So which one you're running is actually a genuine question. And so I mean, I've had to do it. I've got my Captain Carter model that I love, and I love being able to use that for a long time as Captain America in my Avengers list. But when Captain America 3 came out, and suddenly there's two viable Captain Americas in Steve Rogers Captain Americas in the Avengers, I can't really use Carter at a tournament anymore, because if I win a game off of my opponent mixing up which Captain America I'm running, that's where it becomes a problem, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an interesting thing there. And then, yeah, more so to the idea of like, if I'm running SpongeBob and I'm saying he's Captain America, you have even more of that problem.
Mhm.
So I love that we've worked SpongeBob into like 3 examples now, by the way. What is this?
It's just stuck in my head
Who
now.
suggested it was you? It's your fault?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
me. I got it stuck in my head.
I was certainly not the one out here bringing up unprompted unprompted.
I don't know why I thought of
references.
SpongeBob. I just think it was one of the weirdest ones to enter Magic. That's why.
It's Reed's fault. Oh right, SpongeBob's in
Yep.
Magic. Okay, yeah, this makes more sense now.
Yeah, that's where I
It
got it
wasn't
from.
totally
It
unprompted.
wasn't completely
It
out
was
of left
only
field.
just mostly unprompted.
All right. Understood. Understood. Message received. SpongeBob expansion for MCP when. Okay. So yeah, I think we've kind of landed on where most of us kind of sit in terms of when a crossover is okay and when it's bad. We have some weird ones like the one on the screen right now of like this one is mostly positively received, partially because the game has very little to no community of its own, and partially because the people who don't play the game just think it's funny. Like you mentioned, Reed, you bought this so you could proxy Raj as Aquaman as your Namor, which I think is amazing. You still haven't done it, and you do need to get on that. But
Well, actually, the reason I came up with this idea is I looked over to the side and I saw the box on my shelf.
Nice.
So,
It truly inspired.
in all honesty, that's how I thought of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've kind of hit the thing of like a lot of the times with these crossovers lately, it's kind of feeling like a cash grab. It's feeling very Fortnite-y. And it's just becoming with Magic specifically, like they don't actually care about what the majority of the player base wants because they know, like you said, Final Fantasy is gonna sell. It's gonna make a lot of money, so they're gonna keep doing it. Spider-Man, it's freaking Spider-Man. It's gonna sell. We all know that. It's gonna make a piss ton of money, and they're gonna keep doing it. They've already announced Marvel Superheroes as one of the sets that's coming out. There's very little that's going to stop them at this point because the entire old guard of players could decide tomorrow that they're going to quit the game, and they're not going to because people generally don't stick to stuff like that. But the entire old guard of the game could decide that they're going to quit over this, and I think Wizards still profits off of these sets that more than if they were to do things to retain their existing player base. So yeah, I think we've kind of found the issue here of these crossovers don't make sense. They don't fit the setting and the established lore. They're going to feel jarring. They're going to feel out of place for the players who care about the setting and the established lore. And they just feel like cheap cash grabs most of the time. Like they're not they're only cool if you're looking at it from the perspective of a fan of the crossover IP and not a fan of the original IP, if that makes sense.
And it becomes better if the people making this crossover are making it from a point of also being a fan.
Yes,
I
100%.
think is a big part of it.
Yeah, well, that's where you get with the Doctor Who, and it's like, yeah, like I still get it. If you're a Magic fan and you don't care at all about Doctor Who, you're still not going to like the Doctor Who set. It's still a crossover that to you will feel out of place and weird. But at the very least, the
Sure.
Magic fans who are also fans of Doctor Who will like it. Whereas for me, like again, I'm hesitant to call myself a Magic fan because I really don't play the game that much and I don't care that much about the setting. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan though. I love Spider-Man. But I look at those cards and they're just pretty artwork to me because their rules do not feel like Spider-Man. At least most of them.
Yeah.
And so for me, even as one of the people who's like the target audience for that sort of thing, even I'm kind of jaded by it. It's like this isn't actually Spider-Man. This is the cards that they made for their other set, their arena set, actually feel more appropriate for these mechanics than the Spider-Man cards. Which is weird because of how many of them are like spider hero whatever is like Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. There was also the conversation that was brought up the other day at our local game store, Alex, where we were talking about the Green Goblin and the idea of like guy puts on rubber mask is now a goblin instead of a human, but the
Yeah.
Green Goblin in the Universes Within set is actually a goblin. It
It's
makes
just a
more
goblin.
sense. So yeah, like there are some things, many things I would say that actually make more sense in the Universes Within set than they do in the Spider-Man set, and that's where it feels cash grabby and just doesn't feel like it's for the players anymore, or even for the fans of Spider-Man. It is just to get the fans of Spider-Man to spend money, and it's gonna work because we're all addicted here. Whether it's plastic crack or cardboard crack, we're all into it. We are all addicts here. Let's be real.
Ugh.
Yep, I've accepted it.
Yeah, I've accepted it too. No, like it's a thing, right? Like, listen, Flashpoint announces its next box. I'm buying it. Doesn't matter what it is, although we know it's Noble Team, which is cool. Because I am a huge Halo fan and I like the game at least enough to continue playing it. Like, is it my favorite game system I've ever played? No, I prefer MCP, I prefer Legion, but Flashpoint is the game where I'm buying it because of the IP. And I do still enjoy the game, let's be very clear on that. But if they were to go ahead and announce a Halo set in Magic, I'm probably gonna buy it. I wouldn't be proud of it, but I would probably do it. And I mean that's why it's working, right? That's why they're continuing to do it, because so many people are saying the exact same thing that I am.
Oh yeah, I'm the same way.
Oh yeah, I remember when the Lord of the Rings sets were announced. You were over the moon for those.
And now the Last of Us sets are announced, and
Same deal. Yep.
it's like the Futurama "shut up and take my money" meme.
Yep. No,
Yep.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're just as much part of the problem as we are willing to be able to complain about the problem, because it is a problem. We are also feeding that problem. But
I would never feed that problem.
never, eh?
Wouldn't be me.
Fair.
Never.
Okay. Interesting.
A likely story. How much Doctor Who stuff do you have?
Well, that's all, folks.
Yeah. No. But yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? Is at the end of the day, we talked about this a little bit. I don't know how much of this we mentioned in the podcast, but we talked about it a little before this podcast started, of the idea of like, for Reed, you especially are very much like, if you like the thing that's being crossed over into the thing, you're gonna be excited about it, whether it makes any sense or not.
Oh,
Whether
absolutely.
you normally like crossovers for that thing or not. It's Last of Us. You love Last of Us. You're all in. We already know
Well, that's
this.
part of it too. Is the attitude I get when playing a game is as long as I don't absolutely hate the setting, like I'm kind of okay about it, which is honestly kind of how I entered Marvel.
Yeah,
Like I liked parts of it, but I wasn't like a crazy big Marvel fan.
yeah. Like you
Um,
like superheroes. You like Daredevil. You're a big fan of it and stuff like that. But
yeah, yeah, and I actually started liking superheroes more because I was playing the game.
yeah,
But I got into the game and I liked the mechanics enough that I played. So for me, having those weird crossovers matters less to me because I'm playing a game at the end of the day.
and I think at the end of the day, for most people, how okay they are with any given crossover is going to come down to whether they like the IP being crossed in, or the IP that it already was more. If you like the one that's coming in more, you're probably going to be excited about that crossover and you're probably going to buy into it. But if you like the
Yep.
existing one as its own thing more, I think you're a lot less likely to be excited about different things coming into it, because you liked what you already had. Why would you want new? Um, it's the same idea for me of like, if Halo is brought into a different game, I'm gonna be excited and I'm gonna buy into it. But if something else was brought into Halo, I'm gonna have much more mixed opinions on it. Because that's the setting and IP that I am passionate about, and I want to see in more things, not less of it because there are other things diluting it now. Because yeah, I'm guilty as charged there with crossovers. I think there are some where it would be really weird if they chose to put it into the existing game, like if Star Wars Legion were to suddenly be like, hey, we're also a Halo game now. That's weird. It
Be a little
mechanically
weird.
would work, but it's weird. Mechanically it would actually like really work, but it just doesn't like it's a Star Wars game at the end of the day. I would buy it, but I wouldn't blame Star Wars fans for being like, what the heck is this? Why have you done this? So
See, I'm
yeah.
a Star Wars fan, and I'm still the same opinion where I'd be kind of okay with it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I'd be kind of okay with it because I like the IP coming in, but if I didn't, I think I would have a very different opinion. And
Yeah, like if it was like again SpongeBob, I would be a lot more annoyed.
yeah, like what the heck is this?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always SpongeBob with you.
That's the
Listen,
first example of something I don't like.
so
being
next
crossed over.
episode of the podcast, we're talking about SpongeBob and why SpongeBob doesn't have a miniatures game yet. No,
You only
Um,
brought up
Oh,
the Big Bang Theory models because they're on your shelf next to you. Is there also a SpongeBob on your shelf next to you?
trust me, there's not a SpongeBob on my shelf. I bring it up because I dislike that crossover.
we will
I
be
don't believe you.
we will be fixing this. I will make sure that there's SpongeBob in your room by tomorrow.
Do I need a
Um,
SpongeBob proxy for MCP now?
oh my god. Next
He
next
gets to be
custom character
Spider-Ham.
episode, we're making SpongeBob, guys. That's
He gets
not
to be
happening.
Spider-Ham.
Actually, that kind of
Patrick is
works.
Bob.
That also kind of works.
Oh
Is
man.
Shang-Chi Sandy? Because she's a hand-to-hand
I hate
combat
this.
expert.
Oh
King,
god.
Kingpin is Mr. Krabs. Yep. All right. I'm glad we went the same place with that. Oh, I hate it. I hate it so much.
I hate this so much too.
Oh, this is all
And
absolutely
Doc
awful.
Ock is Squidward.
Okay, no, that one doesn't really work. I'm
it's
sorry.
Because it's an octopus.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna stop you there. That one doesn't work. All right, I
It
think
makes
we've
the most sense.
we've officially run out of meaningful things to say on this topic. All right. Yeah, I think we've had enough of this one. All right. Does anyone have any final like honorable mentions, games they want to talk about that have done crossovers either well or poorly? Why you think that is before we close things out? Is there anything we haven't talked about that we want to
I
get
think
in?
we've covered all the things I wanted to talk about.
Alrighty, Reed, you covered.
So I think they should cross over King of Nothing into Marvel, so they would buff King of Nothing.
Understood.
Oh my goodness, how could I forget?
Gotta throw something in there for the War Machine
Yep.
fans. All right.
Yep, exactly.
No, I think we've said what we wanted to say. So yeah, like overall opinion, I think, like at least for me, crossovers as a concept, as a thing that games can do, I am very pro. I love crossovers. I'm all here for it. I really like the idea of being able to be like, these characters that I love from different universes, I can enact a battle between them and see how that plays out, and like I can have agency over that. It's the same reason why I like these games in general, is like, yeah, I can watch Star Wars and watching Star Wars is great, but it's a different feeling when I get to play it and have agency in it. Same with, video games and stuff like that. So crossovers as a whole, super cool. Love the idea, but the execution is really, really important. It has to be somewhere that crossover can make sense to exist, and the game has to support the thing that it's taking. It needs to feel like it makes sense. Like, you cross this over here because it was a freaking good idea, not because you wanted to make a quick buck. And I think that's kind of my key takeaway here. I don't know if you guys have a differing final opinion here.
I have a very similar take, except it's a little more cynical in that I think that 9 times out of 10 it's the quick buck angle, and I'm not expecting it to be the 1 out of 10.
No, I unfortunately, especially when you're talking about something like Magic, I am agreeing with you. When you're talking about something like HeroScape or HeroClix, where those games are kind of designed almost with it in mind. I mean, HeroClix especially, but HeroScape, like, it's not necessarily made as a crossover game, but it is very, very clearly like if you were to be like, what war game do you think could handle a crossover best that isn't already a crossover game? My first thought would probably be HeroScape, um,
Mhm.
just because of the way the setting is already laid out. So I think when it's in a setting like that, where it's clearly designed to be able to do that, I think you can give a little bit more benefit, that it's not just a cheap cash grab. But when it's something like Magic, I think you're gonna lose those straws real quick.
Yeah, like I'm a bit more cynical, like on the cynical side of I do think they're doing it for the money, but I do think you do have fans in those companies that do develop some of these cards, like the Doctor Who set, um, and even like just like in certain sets you can see that there are people on the team that clearly either research the subject or are fans of the IP,
Well, even
and they feel like the actual cards.
we were talking earlier about the Last of Us cards, and you got really excited about
Yep.
the idea of like you can partner these two together, and then you get to have that like cool thematic face off between the two because one of them goes to your opponent's control. And it was like your reaction to that, I think, is exactly what you want out of a crossover. Is someone who's a
Yeah.
fan of that new thing being like, "Oh, that's cool how they did that."
Yeah, like the Last of Us cards are great examples of like they paid attention to the games and everything, and they're clearly fans of the like, or they talk to the designers or something.
Yeah,
I don't know, but they clearly put thought into it.
yeah, no, I agree. Um, but yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting. We live in a very interesting world for gaming where like these crossovers are becoming more and more abundant, and there's definitely an argument that they are decreasing the overall quality of some of the games that they're prevalent in. Um, and you know, some of it has got to be stemming from the video game world. We mentioned Fortnite already. Um, that's a very, very common thing right now in video games is crossovers. It's been a thing for a while now. And one of the things I did mention before we started recording is how kind of differently the video game community sees it, because most of the time there, it's positively received, um, which is interesting. Obviously, Fortnite is very, very crossover heavy, but even other things. I used to play a lot of Smite, and I remember whenever Smite would release a round of themed skins, people were really, really excited over it. I saw very little negativity towards it being like, oh, you're ruining the thematics or anything like that. But there's an argument that that was still the case. So it's always been interesting to me how differently those types of communities view effectively the same things. I don't know if you guys have any weigh in on that one, but
I mean, I think video games are can be somewhat similar to the like subject I was talking about, like obscuring like in games like character or in like miniature games model clarity, where you have like in Smite, for example, like MOBAs have very distinguished like character outlines to be clear. Like this character always has like a hook or something to make it clear it's always this character.
yeah,
But then if you do a crossover and the character they fit with it doesn't fully match up, it can be like people like, who is this? I
yeah,
don't know who I'm playing against, and this is kind of muddled.
yeah,
That I've heard can be problematic at times, but other than that, I think it's fine. Like if you have a character like that crossover match up with another character in your game, it works well. Because yeah,
yeah. It's just interesting for how little flack those games get for doing it when the hobby games like miniature or card games, it seems to get talked about in a lot more cynical light. Um, and
yep, that's true.
maybe it's just quantity, right? Maybe it is Magic has just done too much of it at this point. Um,
I think it also might be a bit more newer to the miniature slash card game space than
Definitely,
like video
Yeah,
games.
you're
yeah.
not seeing a ton of crossover miniatures yet. Yet.
Well, it's even like Alex, you were telling me about like Destiny has some cool like nods and references to Halo. Like those are obviously they're made by the same company, but they are at the end of the day completely separate universes with their own established lore and characters and designs. So, like, do you know what the kind of community stance on that is? Are they like, oh, this is cool? Or are they like, Halo feels a little weird to be in this game?
So there's two answers to that, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. The references to Halo were in a very specific like section of the game that was very clearly advertised as being a love letter to the history of Bungie as a company. And that was overall received relatively well because it was packaged in a way that like they were Easter eggs and they were references, but it was overall not like the missions you were playing were original, right?
Sure.
And that was overall received very well. Later this year, Destiny 2 is getting an expansion that is Star Wars themed and mixed reception.
I can imagine. Yeah, that is yeah, I'm sure that's gonna be interesting. Because correct me if I'm wrong, aside from the Halo nods, Destiny's been a fairly standalone IP.
Very standalone.
Yeah. So that's really interesting to hear. That yeah, you've if the game hasn't had that in mind, and it's a similar boat of Magic, where like for a long time it's been its own established thing. Because Destiny's been around how many years now? Like it's at least 10 now, right?
Yeah, 10 years.
Yeah. So like it's been around 10 years with very little in the way of any sort of crossover, a couple Easter eggs, but that's about it. Um, and hearing that it's getting mixed reception is interesting because you usually don't see that. A lot of games kind of celebrate when they do crossovers rather than get criticism from their communities. So that's actually really interesting to hear that maybe it is the same. It's just that video games have, in a weird sense, been actually smarter about how they approach it in the past, because a lot of video games that do that are very clearly designed with that in mind, or like you said with the Destiny thing, like this expansion is very clearly meant to be that and only that. It is not for everyone, and it's not going to be forced on everyone.
Hmm.
So no,
Yeah,
that's really
I think it's
interesting.
impossible to please everyone.
Oh,
That's the real
absolutely.
takeaway.
Yes, at the end of the day, well, we are wargamers, and what are the things that we hate most as wargamers? Change and the way things are. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
this guy gets it.
you're not gonna please us all, and I think that expands to most communities for most things. Definitely applies to card gamers, and probably applies to many video game players as well. So yeah, it makes sense. The community reactions to these things are very expected, but it's just an interesting world now that we've kind of found ourselves at a point where this is becoming more and more prevalent, and it's definitely starting to detract from the hobby for a lot of people. So it's it's a little worrying to see where that's going to go, or where it ends really is
Hmm.
what's going to be interesting. And I think we're going to see that. I think Magic is going to reach a critical mass for this in if they continue like this in the next handful of years, they're going to reach a point where some major shakeup is going to happen with the player base. They're either going to lose a significant amount of the player base and it's going to become a more collectors focused game where it's only going to be people buying into the game because they like the IPs and things like that, or the community is going to basically shrug and say it is what it is, this is our game now. I'm not sure which one's going to happen, but I don't think Wizards is going to stop. I don't think that's going to happen either way.
No, I think that we kind of have to brace for more crossovers, even.
Absolutely. I
And
think
and I think that we will probably like now that we're seeing it in like modern Heroescape with the GI Joe thing. I would not be surprised at more games bringing in more crossovers.
yeah, no, I think Heroescape doing it is not unexpected. Again, people were kind of hoping for it from the very start with Heroescape's relaunch, with Renegade having access to the IP, being like, what could they do? But there is also a little bit of concern with that. So, alrighty. So at that point, I think we're gonna start wrapping this up here because I mean, we mentioned we were gonna start wrapping it up like 15 minutes ago, and then we went on another thing. But for real, I think we're gonna wrap up this conversation here. But I am really curious to hear what you guys think, if you made it this far in the video at least. So yeah, let us know your thoughts on crossovers in general down below, how you feel about them in miniature games or maybe in specific games. And of course, you know, if you have your own share of opinions on the Magic ones, please do share those down below. I'm going to remind everyone just one more time just to try and be civil in the comments. We are all entitled to our own opinions. So if there's somebody in the comments being like they absolutely love everything to do with the Spider-Man crossover, don't you know, harass them for it, because they are entitled to that opinion. They're more than welcome to enjoy the things that they enjoy. And similarly, if you're upset about something, or yeah, if you're upset about something, you're allowed to have that opinion as well. So don't try to, you know, tell people that the thing that they're upset about is not okay to be upset about, because that, again, we're all justified in our own opinions here, I think. So yeah, that's going to close out this one. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this podcast. And yeah, if you did, please do drop a like on the video if you're watching on the YouTube side. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. It helps us out a bunch. Lets us know you guys are enjoying the stuff we're throwing out there. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all from me. Any final thoughts, Reed or Alex?
What was that guy? King of Nothing? Put him in MCP.
Yeah.
God dang it.
Yeah,
All right.
and then buff him.
This is becoming a recurring trend. I don't know how I feel about this. All right, we're gonna go ahead and close out the episode here then. So once more, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, have a great day, everybody. Peace.